Okay, we'll try that. I don't know what was going on with it before and why it did what it did. Anyway, it's like 4 in the morning right now. And I should be in bed, but I wanted to record this video log because I wanted to put it out there into the world. This isn't something that's going to be like timing sensitive or anything like that, but I wanted to put this thought out there I wanted to make my feelings known with respect to what I'm going to talk about, and I don't even really know where to start with it because I've been sitting here and I've just been thinking about how I want to do this and how I want to keep going with all of this stuff. I am a computer guy by hobby and by trade. It's my job, it is what I do, and I generally enjoy it, particularly with the stuff that's older than I am. I enjoy the vintage stuff and all that, whatever, but the direction that things are headed in, and I look at the direction that things are headed in and the way that things are right now, and I am so disillusioned with it that I have to think that there is going to come a time, there will be a very real point in time where I'm just going to be done with it. You know, there's a lot of advances that have been made. The Raspberry Pi is a great device. Stuff like that is wonderful. A lot of the embedded electronic stuff is pretty neat. But for general purpose computing, I'm not into it, man. I'm just not into the way that it's headed. What really brought this on, and what really made me think about this in the first place, was actually this, sitting right here. This thing, and I'm going to get this wrong, I'm pretty sure it's a 2008, like it's a late 08 model iMac. Silver aluminum, it's not unibody, so it predates that. It's in relatively good condition. I haven't made a video about it yet, but it needs an operating system, and I was thinking actually about what operating system I wanted to put on it. Which then for some reason morphed into, well, I hate basically everything after Snow Leopard. Because in my opinion, I think Snow Leopard was the last time that Apple really put any decent amount of thought into their operating system. That's not to say that Lion and later don't have their benefits, because some of them do. For instance, if you put an SSD into one of those things, you had to run one of the very latest, in fact, I think the last release of Snow Leopard in order to get trim support, which I think was kind of stupid. But then again, it goes with the times. You know, SSDs were not a common thing. Even in 2011, to be honest with you, they were not a common thing. They were starting to get common at that point. But anyway, I don't know what just beeped. Probably just my brain again. But yeah, it morphed into that. Because, well, actually, what the thought process was is, I don't know what I'm going to put on. I don't know what it supports, but I'm probably just going to put Snow Leopard on it because I think everything else is a pile of crap. And then I started thinking about it. I was kind of curious, you know, when did Steve Jobs pass away? And as it turns out, Lion just barely would have fallen under his purview. But I have to think he really didn't have a whole lot of input into it. And, like, the hardware itself is nice. Apple's always really been a hardware company. They've never really been a software company. You know, anybody that's really serious about software should build their own hardware, and they definitely did it. But the colorful iMacs, in particular, I'll just focus on those. The colorful iMacs were, you know, they're a nice little idea. I would like to have one. They're kind of frightfully expensive, but it would be kind of nice to get one at some point. But the software just lets it down in a big way. You know, it's not like it's a glorified iPad now, guys. It's just that's the way that it is. I thought I could come in here. There's too many fans. There'd be too much wind noise. Uh, it's a glorified iPad now. And before anybody tells me that, well, Windows isn't any better, you're right, it's not. And Windows has got the added benefit of having AI all over it, which again, that's another aspect of modern computing I am just so incredibly disillusioned with. It's got its place, it's got its time, it's got its purpose, but shoving it down my throat and up my ass every chance you get is not really the time and place for it. And I'm particularly annoyed with it because they've decided that all these data center things are just going to start buying up all the fucking RAM for everything, so you can't buy RAM for anything. It reminds me of hard drive prices in 2011 after that flood in Thailand, I think it was. I don't remember exactly where it was, but there was flooding and it flooded out the drive manufacturers and it caused problems for them, and hard drive prices were through the sky for several months afterwards. But I don't know. I think this time, we've had things like this before. We've had the dot-com bubble. We've had all that kind of stuff. When the AI bubble bursts, and not if, when, notice how I'm still optimistic that it will. But when it does, we've really hitched the economic wagon to this thing. So when it blows up, we're all in for a world of hurt. I mean, we're all in for a world of hurt anyway, with the way that things are going in the world. It's just been a downward spiral for the last, 6 years now. Well, maybe not quite. It'll be 6 years in March. I think you know what event I'm referring to, but ever since then, the world has just been... It's been on the downtrend. I don't know if this is what I should be showing, or if it's like this. Whatever, it doesn't matter. In general. I'm not just talking about computing, but in a way, it's just... What's the solution to any of this stuff? The hardware sucks, and it's expensive. Everything is soldered now, for the most part. You can still build a desktop, but how much longer is that going to be a thing for the general consumer? I'm kind of amazed right now that they have not gone the road of putting laptop parts, like laptop soldered CPUs and laptop everything else, into desktops in order to save power, because that seems to be the name of the game these days. They have, actually, because there are adapters you can buy that you can put laptop memory into desktops. People have been doing it now because that's the only way to get economical RAM. Go figure, that made the price of laptop RAM shoot up too, so good job on that one. But yeah, no, it's just not... It's not going in a direction that I like, and I have a feeling that by the time I retire, I'm probably done with computing. In general. I mean, I still like, for some inexplicable reason, stuff like that. How much of that stuff is still going to be around? Because we've gotten to the point now where there's a lot of ROMs that are failing. There's a lot of other things that are going wrong with these things. And bless the vintage computer community for everything that they do, but there's only so much you can do. And a lot of these just random machines. Now, the core data that's sitting over there probably would be exempt from this because it's kind of unique, but the thing beside it is just a generic PC XT clone. Who's going to care about something like that? How long are the floppy drives still going to be around? Yes, there's solid state things for that too, but how long is all of this stuff going to be interesting? I'm not interested in a solid state everything system. Would it be nice to have one of those around? Yes. Just to have it, to play around with it. But I also like the idea of older machines and older doing things the way that it was meant to be done. You know, it's another reason why people, I don't understand why people always are like, well, just throw away that hard drive that's in there and put a blue SCSI in it. As if money grows on trees, 1 and 2. There's a time and place for that. If I were using the machine on a daily basis to do whatever with it, whatever I would do on a daily basis with it, yes, having something like that would be helpful because hard drives wear out. On a system I'm going to power on like once a month, why am I wasting solid state storage on that? This doesn't jive with me. Anyway, I've gotten off on a bunch of different tangents. Needless to say, I don't like where computers are headed at this point, and something has got to give. And I don't know what it's going to be. Maybe it's finances in general. Something has to give, because right now everything is unaffordable. It's not just computers, it's across the board. In fact, I actually bought a CD at a thrift store today, and the price tag is $4 on a CD. I used to be able to get these things for 99 cents. And that wasn't that long ago. Like, that was, again, like 6 years ago. You could get them for 99 cents. And now, I mean, this is the cheapest I've seen, which is not too bad, $2 for a CD. This is actually a 2 CD set, so technically they are 99 cents each, I guess. But, like, you know, my fear is that this is the price that we're going to start seeing on these things sooner rather than later. And that's another thing that really kind of just kills any kind of interest in any kind of hobby, is the fact that pricing for all of these things has just gone completely and utterly through the roof. Like, it's nuts. You know, whatever happened to the day when you could walk into a thrift store and you could buy whatever for like $5? Electronics related. Like, I'm not talking about like clothing or anything like that. You can still find some pretty good deals there. But I don't go to a thrift store to buy clothes. Honestly, I don't really generally buy clothes, period. But maybe that's a problem. But yeah, no, suffice it to say that while there's deals, there are still deals to be had. You can find some things for cheap. It's just not as good as it used to be. Oh, old man yell at cloud kind of deal, but get off my lawn. I don't know how much of it's that. If it's, you know, old man shaking rake at kids to telling them to get off his lawn, or if it's just being disillusioned with the way that things are headed. And I don't think I'm the only one, because there's a lot of surveys. Is that the word? I think surveys is the word. There's a lot of them out there that sentiment amongst people about my age. I'm 30, almost 30. Hard to believe still, but around that age group, we are the most unhappy age group and are the most disillusioned with the way that things are headed. So it's no surprise that I feel this way, because the people that are the most screwed are us. You know? Unless things really start kicking into high gear as far as affordability and changes on that regard, other things. You know, I'm not even going to talk about housing. I'm not going to talk about groceries. I'm not going to talk about any of that crap here in this video, because it's not the point. And that's a very good way to get very political very fast. But just with computers alone, affordability's got to get better. You know, whatever happened to the notion of the bird clock in the other room? I don't know if you can even hear it. What happened to the notion of computers being extremely cheap. The purpose of the Raspberry Pi originally, I don't even remember what the cost of it was, but it was, I think, less than $10. Got you a Raspberry Pi back in like 2006 or whatever it was when it came out. Whatever happened to that kind of idea? Or the original netbooks, which were less than $100. You can't get that kind of stuff anymore. And it's just... like, I think we, as a society, and this is probably the one thing about housing I'm going to even get into, because it's kind of like a parallel. Investments. Using a house as an investment. As a society, when we get to that point, we have just gone so far. We have jumped like 2,000 sharks at that point. Like, that's not what that is, you know? And that's not what that should be, but that's the way that it is at this point. And if you think I'd be in favor of banning investment housing, that's one way to fix that. People would be very upset, and it would probably tank the economy, but hey, the economy's tanking anyway. So I'm a big proponent of chaos. Maximum chaos. So anyway. But yeah, circling back around to computing. That right there is the catalyst of all of this. 17 minutes. I guess to wrap it up is I'm disillusioned with computing. I don't think I'm the only one that's disillusioned with where computing is headed. This AI nonsense needs to stop. And I think the bigger problem is that everyone, like all of the peons are saying this AI nonsense needs to stop. But no one with any clout is caring. Look at on YouTube all of the videos that you see from all of these people that are actually involved with these companies telling you just how screwed we really are with them. And again, it makes me wonder why why am I here and what am I doing? Right? Like, I don't know, maybe I was born 10 years too early, 10 years too late. Is the kind of thing that I guess it boils down to. But the flip side of that is what you're gonna do about it, right? It's not a whole lot you can't choose when you're born. You know, they haven't invented a time machine yet. So I don't know, but I have a strong feeling that there is going to come a point in time, and it's going to be very soon, where this bubble has to burst. Sorry, I'm tired. Yeah, it's 4 o'clock now, so you know what? I think I'm gonna shut up. At the heart of it all, computers are devolving into nothing at this point. It's not worth exploring. I feel bad for anybody that's trying to get into the hobby right now. You know, it was one thing when everybody was going absolutely ape shit over Pentium 4s. I never quite understood that, but you know, when I was getting into computers, they were the ongoing concern. That was 15 years ago. Let's call it that. Like when I really, really started getting into it. I've been into machines since I was like 2, but when I started really, really, really getting into it, like at about the age of like 7, 8, 9, somewhere in there, 10, just for the sake of argument. That was actually 16 years ago. What computers would have been in 16 years? Like, where has that line shifted at this point? Like, we're probably into the situation where, you know, if we call it 10-year-old computers are considered vintage, at this point, and you look at the timeline, that will get you probably like a Haswell or maybe even a Coffee Lake machine. 2016. Yeah, probably a Haswell machine. To me, those aren't all that old. In fact, I still have a whole bunch of them in active service. But to someone getting into the hobby now, that would be vintage. And I don't know, maybe that's probably just old man yelling at cloud. It was so much better back in my day, kind of thing. But I don't know. I'm disillusioned with the whole thing, and I wonder why I'm here and what I'm doing. But I guess time marches on, and that's not like I'm gonna. That was a rather depressing video, honestly, to make. Maybe I shouldn't have even made it, but I spent the last 21 minutes of my life doing it, so I guess I might as well upload it. I don't know if anybody else feels the same way. I don't know if anybody else is even watching at this point, but I'd be curious what the consensus is as far as where computing is headed. There's good aspects to it, of course, but it just seems that the race to the bottom of AI is the only thing that anybody cares about. Consumer be damned. So I don't know. I guess I just miss the days when computing was interesting and there was competition and there was all kinds of interesting stuff going on. It's all commoditized now. And who cares?